All right, we're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. If you would, please stand, and we're going to join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I would like to ask Representative Bill Wesley if he would lead us in a prayer as we start our meeting.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let us pray. Father, we thank you today, God, for your goodness and mercy, and we thank you for this wonderful day that you gave us. Lord, I ask you to give the wisdom, Lord, to all the men and women that's here on this council, God, to make the right decision, not only for you, but also for our people back home. And we just thank you, Lord. We ask you to bless our leadership, and we thank you, God, for their direction. In Jesus' name, amen.
All right, at this time, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Senator Chambers Armstrong, Senator Carpenter, Senator Mills, Senator Schickel, Senator Southworth, Senator Turner, Senator Webb, Senator Westerfield, Senator Wheeler, Senator Williams, Representative Ballman, Representative Blanton, Representative Bowling, Representative Bridges, Representative Burke,
Here.
Representative Chester Burton, Representative Dossett,
Present.
Representative Dotson, Representative Flannery, Representative Fugate,
Here.
Representative Gentry,
Here.
Representative Grossberg,
Present.
Representative Johnson,
Present.
Representative McCool, Representative Miles, Representative Smith, Representative Wesley, Representative White, Representative Williams, Co-Chair Smith,
Present.
and Co-Chair Gooch.
Present.
Yep.
All right, we have a quorum, so at this time, I'd like a motion for the approval of our minutes. Motion is second. All those in favor of the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise, the motion's carry. At this time, do we have any of our members that have special guests or have any comments or statements they would like? All right, well, I actually do. I have a very good friend of mine, Larry Griffey. I see Larry. I'm looking for him here. Larry, stand up wherever you are. Back there in the back. Larry, thanks for coming. He's here. Let's give him a nice welcome to be with us. All right, well, let's go ahead and get underway. At this time, we're going to bring up Commissioner Rich Storm. I will come to the table, and any guests you would like to bring with you, and as you know, just come to the table, make sure your microphone's on, and identify yourself for our records.
I'm Commissioner Rich Storm with Kentucky Fish and Wildlife.
Will Bowen with the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation.
And I'm Heather Jeffs. I'm with the Nature Conservancy.
Well, very good. We are very proud to have you all in front of our committee. You have an incredible story to tell. It's been quite a journey. I'm looking at all the stuff that the members of this body and others have helped to push this along, and I think this is a historical benchmark for the state of Kentucky. And at this time, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, Commissioner, and you can kind of bring us up to date and talk a little bit about this historic project.
Okay, and if I may, Mr. Chair, I'm going to turn it over to Heather, and she'll start our program off, and I'll try to finish up.
Thanks, Commissioner. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Heather Jeffs. I'm with the Nature Conservancy in Kentucky. I'm our Director of External Affairs, and I'm based in Lexington. The Nature Conservancy works in all 50 states and more than 70 countries, and we aim to work with partners and stakeholders on things that benefit both people and nature. And I want to begin by thanking Chairman Smith, Chairman Gooch, and other members of the committee for the opportunity to provide an update on the acquisition of conservation easements made pursuant to SB 241, which was introduced by Senator Robin Webb and became law in the 2023 session. And my update is a good one. Let me get straight to the point. Thanks to the work the General Assembly did in 2022 and 2023, the partners here today have gone from early discussions on the opportunities with this property to being within just a couple of months of closing on a permanent conservation, recreation, and public access easement on more than 54,000 acres in Bell, Knox, and Leslie counties. The Nature Conservancy's Cumberland Forest Project spans 253,000 acres across Kentucky, Tennessee, and Virginia, and it's one of the largest land deals in our organization's history. The Kentucky portion is located in the heart of the elk zone in Kentucky, which is the largest elk herd east of the Rocky Mountains in an area where Kentucky Fish and Wildlife has long prioritized having public access. In 2022, the department had identified federal funding that could be used to acquire the easement, but we needed a 25% non-federal match. During the 2022 legislative session, the General Assembly, including several champions here today, saw the unique opportunities to support this once-in-a-generation conservation, recreation, hunting, and tourism opportunity in southeastern Kentucky, and provided a state appropriation of $3.875 million to ensure that Kentucky Fish and Wildlife could leverage those federal funds. This would allow them to better conserve and manage wildlife habitat, to allow public access and spur economic activity associated with hunting, fishing, wildlife watching, and other outdoor recreational pursuits, all in perpetuity. Encouraged by this support from the Kentucky General Assembly, the Nature Conservancy has worked in strong partnership with the department and with Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, and I want to thank our partners for being here today. In February, I came before the Senate Natural Resources and Energy Committee and highlighted some concerns that we had with some of the pace of due diligence that was being conducted on the easement. After that committee meeting, SB 241 was introduced, and it has made all the difference. SB 241 became law, directing Kentucky Fish and Wildlife to acquire the easement and provided the appropriate authorities to do so. Items of due diligence that had been stalled are now progressing very well. Almost immediately, the department submitted an amended grant request for the federal Pittman-Robertson funding and selected the surveyor. This surveying firm is also tasked with the baseline report and environmental assessment, both of which are now in progress. And just this summer, the land contract was signed by both parties, the title work has been completed, a closing attorney was engaged to set up an escrow account, the easement has been prepared, and plans for communications and outreach are all underway. All the parties are committed to closing this deal by the end of the calendar year, and we're optimistic that it could happen as soon as November. I'll note that the survey may not be completed until 2026. Our plan, which was allowed for specifically in SB 241, is for each party to escrow funds to reconcile the purchase price based on acreage once that survey is completed. This is the same strategy that our Tennessee colleagues used, and we're so appreciative that the Kentucky General Assembly provided the same pathway for our project. Again, on behalf of TNC, I cannot overstate how appreciative we are for your support. We recognize the difficult decisions you all face in wisely investing our state revenue, and thank you for your continued support. I'm happy to answer any questions and look forward to celebrating with you all in Eastern Kentucky soon. Thank you.
Thank you for your report. Commissioner, we'll go ahead and let you do your presentation.
Well, I will turn it over, if I may, Mr. Chair, to Will Bowling with the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation now.
Thank you. Chairman Smith, Chairman Gooch, the rest of the committee members, thank you for having me out here today. Again, my name is Will Bowling. I work for the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. Our mission at RMEF is to ensure the future of elk, other wildlife, their habitat, and our hunting heritage. I've spent nearly 2 decades working in natural resources management, wildlife management, and conservation in Kentucky and surrounding states. And I can tell you right now, from where I'm sitting, the Italia Conservation Easement is going to provide for our mission and for the betterment of Kentucky in a way that we've never seen before in our history. This truly is a historic conservation achievement that we're pulling off with the assistance of the legislature. So as Kentuckians, I'm sure that each of us in here have great memories of spending time outdoors, whether that's hiking, hunting, fishing, whatever it is that our time that we like to spend making memories with friends and family are. But the one thing that we have to remember is in order to be able to make those memories, whatever that pastime may be, we have to have access to the land itself. We have to have the access to the land for our people to be able to go out and make those memories. And for that reason, this permanent public access that's going to be acquired through this project is so important. I would like to speak, first of all, to two things. For the people who live in the communities around the Taya Conservation Easement, so Leslie County, Knox County, and Bell County, we're talking about a huge quality of life increase. If you have any desire whatsoever to pursue outdoor recreation, if you have any love for natural beauty, if you have any love for seeing the land conserved, this is the first time in your life for those community members that they're going to be able to say that that is available to them into perpetuity. And this is, again, just a huge quality of life increase for the folks who live around this property. Kind of the second part of that is if we think about beyond the local community, we know that Kentucky is a destination state for outdoor recreation. It's becoming more so with each year. Just speaking simply to hunting for a minute, we know that people are coming here from all across the United States each year to recreate, to hunt, to enjoy what we already have in our backyards. And when they're coming in, the thing to realize, when they're coming into our communities, they're spending money here. This is local economic development. Outdoor recreation is local economic development. When folks are coming in to hunt on this property that now has permanent public access, they're going to be staying in the hotels in Middlesboro. They're going to be filling up the gas tank down in Barberville. They're going to be eating at the restaurants in Hyden. They're going to be spending money and making a positive economic impact in these communities. And this is important to me, specifically talking to you, because I am from there. Born and raised in East Kentucky, grew up in Leslie County, live in Clay County now. So when I talk to you about all these benefits, about the quality of life, about the local economic development, I'm not telling you these stories just because of what I do for a living. It's because I live here. I live in this community. I see it myself from day to day, and I know what the promise is that we have from this project. And that being the case, I would like to just spend a couple minutes talking about the deal structure, because to me this is something that's very important. When we think about this conservation easement, as somebody who does live inside the region, the structure of this conservation easement. So KDFWR is going to be acquiring the permanent recreational, the ability to have permanent recreation on the property, also the ability to conserve the property. But the thing to realize is that because this is a conservation easement, the property itself is going to be staying in private ownership. That means it's going to be staying on the tax rolls. Those of us, everybody in this room, understands how important it is to maintain those local property tax rolls. And when we think about our rural counties, we really understand how important that is. So by this 55,000 acres staying in private ownership, it's still going to be having property taxes coming in and year out. It's still going to be supporting our local institutions. So everything from the county fiscal court to the extension office to the health department, the school system, the public library, all the way across the board, this property, this 55,000 acres, we're going to be growing this economy, a recreation economy, but we aren't going to be hurting our local institutions' budgets by doing so. And that's hugely important to those of us who live in these communities. The last thing I would like to leave you with in thinking about the deal structure itself and how a conservation easement for this property is a great match is thinking about the traditional business opportunities that have been pursued on this property. So I've been talking a lot about growing the recreational economy, but we know that some of our traditional natural resource economies are also very much tied to this property. So thinking just about timber harvest, to pull one example out, if we think about timber harvest, it isn't just the loggers. It's the loggers, it's the truck drivers, It's the equipment dealers. It's the guys at the sawmill. It's the hardwood plant, the hardwood flooring plant. It's the restaurants that are feeding the crews that do all this work. It really is a huge ecosystem that's driven by forest management. And this property, by the terms of this easement, the landowners are going to still be able to pursue forest management and sustainable timber harvest going forward. This is huge for our local communities in that area. And not just these local communities, but the entire region and the entire state. So we know that we don't have a bourbon industry without white oak staves. And you just think about the entire web that we have with this, the economic web from the sustainable management of the natural resources on this property. It's huge. And speaking to you personally, as somebody who helped put myself through college, working at a sawmill, and who comes from a family full of loggers and sawyers and coal miners, I can tell you right now I'm mighty proud to be sitting here and to know that we're going to be able to pursue these traditional business opportunities on this property while at the same time growing that recreation economy. So, in closing, really all I want to say is thank you all for the part that you've played in this. I know that this is the first time a deal of this type and of this scale has been attempted in the state of Kentucky. And I know that it would not have happened without the support of this committee and the legislature in general. It couldn't have happened without your support. So, as a sportsman, as a conservationist, and as a proud East Kentuckian, I would just like to offer each one of you all my heartfelt gratitude for your leadership. So, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Mr. Chair, thank you for allowing us to give this update. And I can tell you, I'm sitting with two partners, and this is like chain. And without a link in that chain, you can't do this stuff. So here with the General Assembly, with partners, we have a historic conservation easement, the model for the future of Kentucky. So let's think about, what if we're in ag land? We could do this again. We could do this in ag land, and we could continue to farm. That's one of the chief complaints I've received from the legislature, losing farmable land. But we could provide public access. So this is the future. And I can tell you Tennessee and Virginia did this before us. And so we had a model to go on. TNC has been fantastic in this partnership. But we had 2 failed attempts with this project. Just because of politics, but 2 failed attempts to try to acquire this property. And so this is not partisan. And thank you, Senator Webb, for what you did last session. I know it didn't come easy for you, but thanks to so many of the members in the General Assembly. Thank you, Representative Bowling, for the hours of conversation that we had. I even hate to mention names, but almost every single person in this room I had conversations with to be able to make this happen. So this is historic stuff. When we talk about the elk zone, this is something I think that's interesting. So many Kentuckians don't know that we have elk, but we're 25 years into an elk restoration program. The significance of this restoration couldn't be done today. There's zoonotic disease and other issues. We could not move elk into Kentucky today. And so huge thanks goes out to people that had the fortitude and the guts to make it happen. But one of the challenges,
like Dr. Webb and Doug Hensley and
correct,
a lot of other fantastic individuals, not to name drop it.
Yeah, and again, it's hard because there's hundreds and hundreds of people that played a significant role, from legislators and mayors but here's what I say: we have 4 million acres in 16 counties of elk zone, and that sounds like a lot of land. It's bigger than Yellowstone, as a matter of fact. However, we have access problems in eastern Kentucky. We have coal mines. We have leasees. We have subleasees. We have mineral. We have so many hurdles in eastern Kentucky to allow the public to find a place to go. And yes, we have WMAs and we have hunter access agreements, but they're very complicated. This is 54,000 acres, continuous tract of huntable lands for elk, deer, turkey, and a multitude of species. And then just to the north of this property, you've got the Appalachian Wildlife Center, which is now called Boone's Ridge. That property will open someday, and when that property does open, that's going to be another tourist attraction for southeast Kentucky. I think we overlook the significance of our natural resources, our wildlife, and what we have in Kentucky. I believe we're first place. I truly believe that. And we have, every year we have more people that come to Kentucky to enjoy our outdoors. We're not nearly as crowded as our surrounding states. So there's just a lot of good things, but I want to say this to the committee today. I think the most important thing that we have to think about, in every state we experience habitat loss, and it puts us in a push and a pull. So when Ford comes to town, we celebrate. And when Amazon comes to town, we celebrate. And when any other manufacturer comes to town, we celebrate. And when the American family builds a new home, we celebrate. But what do? We pour blacktop, we get zero-turn mowers, and we stripe our yards up. We turn that into aesthetic, eye appeal, properties that aren't necessarily conducive to fish and wildlife resources. And so I just say this to you all today. We're 5% public land in Kentucky, about 5%. Fairly normal in the east. 95% private property, so our potential is in private property. Our biggest potential is in private property. But when we lose habitat because of expansion, and it's coming because we're not crowded, it doesn't cost as much to live here, and we're a right-to-work state, and there's a multitude of things that you all can celebrate up there. People are building in Kentucky, and they want to be here. And with that, we're going to experience losses. We're not going to have grown-up hay fields. We're not going to have the pasture lands. We're not going to have the places that fish and wildlife live and reproduce like we once had. That's not all bad news. I'm not here to say that. But I just want you to think about your community. Maybe it's the street you live on. It looks a lot different where I'm from, and I'm from eastern rural Kentucky. I have a lot of neighbors, subdivisions. And so we have lost key habitat, and that's going to continue to come. But I only say this because when you get calls from your constituents and they're going to say it's not like it used to be in the good old days, it's because of a multitude of things that happen. Change happens. Blacktop gets paved. People move into your community, and we call that growth and development. But this is a balance. And when you acquire 54,000 acres, there's going to be people enjoy it. Neighbors are going to enjoy that. Tourists are going to enjoy that, and most people don't have their own land. And so this is a huge celebration of a lot of pushes and pulls. The third try, and I think this will be the charm. We're gonna pull this off. In the end, $313 per acre. And if Rocky Mountain Elk and TNC decide that they want to come in and do a logging project, or they want to utilize that property in a certain way, they're going to own it. But we're going to get to hunt, we're going to get to fish on it for generations to come. And so all this to say, I love fish and wildlife. I love what we can accomplish, and when we work together, we can spread good news about it. And again, it's an honor, it's a privilege, and thank you all for calling me to be in here today.
Well, I think there's a part of the story that some of the members may not know. It's been about 2 years ago, I think, that you had stepped in my office to tell me about this project, but on that occasion, we were about to lose it. We had some issues that were into place, and I remember asking you what happens if we don't go through with this, and basically another state purchases it. And I said, walk me through this. I'd have to go over into Leslie County or where I live, and if I want to hunt, I'd have to get a permit or paperwork or pay a tag to another state to be able to get on our property in Kentucky. And I don't think that's going to go over very well. And I don't think most of us at that point realized that it was in jeopardy and that Kentucky had no guarantee that they could purchase it. The Conservancy wanted us to have it because their relationship with you, and they felt honestly you were a good steward, and they told me so. That you were a key factor in why they wanted to us to have this, and I have to give credit to them that they didn't get tired of these shenanigans. And for 3 years, they could have sold this property. Am I not right? And probably had pressure on you to sell it because your board had told you to move this property. So we could have been in a situation that could have been sold to our neighboring states or another institute. Anybody could have purchased it. But all this group stayed the course, and all you did was ask us for help, and that's what this is. Time and session after session, we in the Senate and the House had to keep filing bills to make this happen because we had people that weren't doing their job and risk an incredible historic project like that. And that's why people get frustrated with their government, is when it does stuff like this. But I will tell you, you look at these faces up here on this committee and all those that made this happen, it shows you what government can do when we decide to put the people in the interest of a good project first. And so I congratulate you all. You're close. I think you've got about 6 weeks before this is wrapped up. This is truly a win for Kentucky. It's a historical achievement. I'm thankful to the Conservancy for not throwing in the towel and selling it to somebody else and staying the course until Kentucky got our stuff in order for you. But I appreciate the leadership that you've had, Commissioner Storm, and I wanted people to know that we almost lost this project 3 times to get it to where it is at the point now, and you never lost faith or worried from it. So I want to thank you. I have some questions here. We have Representative Gentry. I'll turn it over to Representative Gentry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, guys, folks, for being here. I'm very happy to support that legislation, and for a couple of reasons. Number one, Rich, for one, I had a call even this morning in Louisville, because my district is in Louisville, about people concerned about a neighborhood development that's taken down too many trees and too much of an area. So we even have those issues in Louisville. You know, we don't have a whole lot of wildlife there, as you might know, but you know, we do have our share of deer and squirrel and fox and yeah, even coyotes in the suburban area where I live. But I was also very supportive on, as many of you know, many here in Frankfurt were trying to move toward a consumptive-based tax structure. And I have been saying over and over, Mr. Chair, in the House, that we really need to focus on things that will increase non-resident tax revenues. Because if we increase non-resident tax revenues, then we can support ourselves a lot better to lower the burden on residents. And I think this is one of those projects in Southeast Kentucky that can do that. I only have one hand and 5 fingers, but I can tell you I don't have enough fingers on my hand to tell you how often I get a call from my constituents and people from Louisville talking about, hey, can you do something about an elk tag? And I have to tell them the bad news. Look, I don't get involved with elk tags. I can't get involved with elk tags. But so my question is, as many probably know in this committee, that the elk population is doing very well. The project that's been around for, I guess you said 25 years, from my understanding, is going along just great. How long is it going to be, and when can we see an expansion on elk tag, because population is getting very large?
Well, I'll put this in perspective. That is a great question and something that we do need to touch on. So if we have a survey that suggests we have 10,000 elk in eastern Kentucky, and that's 4 million acres, and you can divide that up. And so let's take that down to 1 million acres and 2,500 animals. You continue to chop that down into small segments. We have a lot of room for growth with Kentucky's elk herd. And so on a tract of land in eastern Kentucky, you could probably expect on a small piece of land, you'd probably see a white-tailed deer on it, probably see a turkey, probably see a lot of different wildlife on it, but not necessarily elk, because they're a herd animal. And so if you see an elk, you may see a lot of elk. But Senator Turner will tell you sometimes you don't see any elk. And so what I would say to you, 25 years into a restoration, we like where we are. We would like to have more elk than what we have. But 4 million acres, 10,000 animals, we're still in a phase where we're going to have a drawing. I look forward to maybe my kids or maybe my grandkids where we would just have an open season and they can go to the Eastern Kentucky Elk Zone. But I think one of the cool things about my job is we can look at the future. So it's not always about us. And I wish that a lot of folks, and especially elderly, that have supported our agency, they bought a license, they apply for the elk drawing most every year. I wish we could give them a tag. I actually wish we could pull that one out of the pocket and you could give some of those folks, because they're the foundation of conservation. They're the ones that build us up and have the fortitude to have what we have. And so I'm not giving you a great answer, except I have confidence that there'll be opportunity in the future that we probably can't see. We do intend to keep that elk zone in 16 counties by regulation. That's the way it works. And from a SAPI side, I wish they were in more counties. But I would anticipate future growth, future opportunity, and it's something I love to talk about, and I'm always glad to field those calls if you'd like to talk about it or some of your constituents would. I had a fellow that called me up, and he just recently had a heart attack. And anyway, he couldn't hunt this year, and I wish I could hit the stop button and help him out. So 25 years in, we have some things that we need to work on, but I like where we're going.
Thank you. We have, of course, we have another presenter today, so we're going to try to hurry through these next members that have questions. Representative Miles, you're next, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I want to compliment Heather. I know we've had multiple other projects across the state with your group, and you all have been very receptive. So I just want to publicly thank you all for that. I do have a question for Mr. Bowling. Do you see any help or hindrance to the elk population of you practicing your square dance and calling?
I'm going to say it's neutral, but maybe we can check back on that later. We need more research, I think.
More research. Thank you, Mr. Bowling.
Thank you. Representative Bowling.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, thank you all for your work on this. It's been great to work with you all on this project. Obviously, it's in my home county of Bell County. The large majority of the acreage is. So I appreciate your all's help, and certainly Senator Webb's help on this, her leadership on this. Wouldn't be here today talking about this and how far along this project is without her. So thank you, Senator Webb. Question is, so 2 months from now, we close on the property. You all have Fish and Wildlife has the rights. What does management look like from that point, and then moving forward to where that is opened up to where, people are able to hunt it, people are able to get on it and enjoy various forms of recreation?
So that's another good question, and probably something I should have pointed out here in the presentation. I'll try to be simple for the sake of time. The property is open through a hunter access agreement, and so with co-management, I think it'll be at least moderately managed from the forest side of it, but the opportunity will continue. And the main thing with this project is this is a perpetual opportunity, 54,000 acres in a 4 million acre elk zone.
Very good. Thank you all again for your work, and look forward to getting out on the property. Thank you.
All right, we've got two left. Senator Webb, I'll yield to you.
Just comment, Mr. Chairman, as you probably expected. I just want to thank this crew, and Will, you're a rock star. Rocky Mountain Elk's been a big part of my life for a long time. And Heather and your group, we worked on projects during my tenure here, but you all have really hung in there, and got to give some thanks to my former colleague in Tennessee, Senator Mike Bell, who's chair of Sportsman's Caucus there, and Sportsman's Caucus here for helping us hang in there and keep Kentucky in the mix. And Rich, you and your crew always been there for backup, and the way you've worked and educated our members. We appreciate that. We appreciate that personal contact and the education you provided for our members on these issues. But I got to get a little sentimental. It's Brandon's fault, or Senator's Chairman's fault. 25 years ago, I was on a coal job that a company had I used to represent with my dad, who was on the Fish and Wildlife Commission, on a coal site where Brandon's dad worked, and I had worked with him. And I saw those little wobbly legs roll out of that crate, and I'm telling you, it to this day, it's in my brain. I'll never get that out. And to see how far we've come, and that I'm able to just play a small part in the continuation of my dad's legacy, and again, big part of my life. It's what I've always done, and having to hunt in Montana and having to hunt in Idaho and pursue those majestic creatures, and then have them in East Kentucky. That was my second home, as Representative Fugate knows, in the Hazard area. But, it's just, we deserve that in East Kentucky. Our people deserve it. Our sportsmen and women deserve it. They pay for it. And I'm just glad for this return on our investment as sportsmen and women in an agency that, in my opinion, is best in the nation and the envy of the nation. So thank you all.
And the funny thing is, Senator Webb, is that from those days back there on that job, and you saw those elk, to you saving this is kind of, I think that distinction is very, very important. That we were struggling with this project, and so it is funny how that stuff connects sometimes down here. But job well done, and with a lot of good help. We've had one other person join us, but Senator Southworth, you're next. And then we'll have Senator Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question, as I'm a little bit notorious for going into the weeds, we're talking here about, imagine yourself out in the forest hunting an elk. But we're also really, the point of this whole thing was the progress that we've made. And I'm curious to find out, because I have a lot of concern about, oversight. And so I'm curious, because we changed in this last iteration, which apparently is what's really pushed us over the edge, how we removed oversight or coordination with the finance cabinet, and now we're kind of out on an island by ourselves. What role did that play in getting us to where we are, and how does that fit in with the future?
So the simple answer to that would be, we faced one blockade after another. Even were laughed at by the finance cabinet, treated like we weren't a state agency, and we've continued to receive that type of treatment. We just want to be able to function as a state agency, and I haven't been vocal about it, but I have tried to operate in an efficient manner. And to say we're persecuted, and we've been persecuted, is an understatement. I don't know why it became that petty, but we still have the checks and balances. We just couldn't get signatures and thumbs up on projects and very germane stuff. And so that's why it came to this. The oversight still exists, and I can tell you, we just celebrated a clean audit. It was our first procurement audit in the history of our agency, and so I'm very thankful for that. So we may not be as fast as a finance cabinet, but we're proficient, and we're doing the best we can with the circumstances that we've inherited.
I'm actually going to yield to Senator Webb. She had a follow-up comment.
I can follow up to that, and I may not be as diplomatic as the commissioner, because I sat in on several meetings at my invitation. Well, first of all, they wouldn't talk to me. I'll just be honest. You all have heard me say this in committee before, but it's a little refresher for you new members. They wouldn't communicate with me. I tried every method of communication short of smoke signals, okay? And then I did have a couple meetings to go over some of these provisions, because believe me, I didn't like for agency resources to have to do these things. But then it's a balancing act. You stand to lose a historic project for no reason. Nobody could tell me what the problem was with this project. I'm an attorney, which is a blessing and sometimes a curse, but I could look at the statutes and say, y'all, they're not being followed in regard to this state agency. And that's why we did it. And that's why I asked for y'all's help in doing it. It was an anomaly. I've been here 25 years. I've been an agency lawyer before. And it was an anomaly to me to have such trouble and lack of communication, and lack of reasoning why we couldn't complete this project. This agency stepped out of its zone, so to speak, and they've done it successfully, as you've just heard. And I had the utmost confidence in them. Didn't think it'd be perfect. It's gone better than I thought, but we had no choice. But this agency was put in that position. They stepped up. They did their job. They got this project. I appreciate it. And if I've not gotten any feedback, I think I would have gotten some feedback from them if that was problematic or a strain on them in any way. That's not been communicated to me or here today. So I was there, and I'd be glad to talk to anybody about my experience with it.
Okay, as we wrap up, Representative Blanton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick suggestion. First of all, I've been supportive of this project, I think, based on my involvement. But a quick suggestion. I don't know that a lot of people know this, but we have a lot of men and women in Kentucky that's involved in pioneer weapons. Specifically, I'm thinking about flintlock rifles. Anybody ever heard of the Kentucky Corps Long Riflemen? And they're spread out all over this state. Now, at Cave Run Lake, we have an area of land that is set aside as a pioneer weapons area. But with this acreage down there, you could even do a festival around it, because these guys go out and they hunt with their flintlock rifles. Some of them even wear their primitive garb when they're doing so. But, maybe not during elk season, because I understand that we're limited, but it'd be nice if we had enough elk to designate an area to where you could only hunt them with primitive weapons as well. But for the remaining game, for certain seasons, make it primitive weapon. For deer, for turkey. We have an annual squirrel hunt at Cave Run Lake in the pioneer weapons area. Yes, we shoot squirrels with flintlock rifles. Many don't know that the gun that Mel Gibson carried on the Patriot in the movie was built right here in Kentucky. The tomahawk he used was built right here in Kentucky. So just an idea to throw out with this 54,000 acres of something that may be able to be utilized as well. And I think it would be bring some good more positive attention to it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Very good comments. All right, this chairman's going to rescind his a statement about last statements, because we do have some good questions, and I want to make sure the members get a chance to ask them. Senator Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to be short, but thank the whole group sitting out there for what all they've done. I would especially like to thank Senator Robin sitting down here, that what she undertook to jump in this thing to force the cabinet. I couldn't understand why the governor just didn't call him and say, get this done. You got these millions of dollars project out here. It's just going to incorporate the 300-some thousand. I live in the Elk area. When I was in the House, went to Knott County and watched them over there whenever they were delivered. So it's a beneficial thing to Eastern Kentucky. It's going to keep growing. And as you've said, the spread of them will make it more easy to hunt. That's just like bears now are coming to Lexington pretty much. And elk is moving in Harlan County. I know the commissioner knows they took a lot. I used to have 4 in my backyard, but they took them down and put them in the park. But they're like he says, they're herd animals. And they get out and they take a herd with them, and they're spreading. I was told the other day they're all the way back to Bob's Creek, which is about 25, 30 miles from through the mountains. So they're spreading, and that will expand the ability of them to hunt. Whenever you were asking the question about the numbers. So I appreciate this whole committee standing up and saying through this bill to get this thing done and force that kind of finance cabinet to really come to the table and take care of this with your all's leadership sitting out there and the members of this committee and the whole body. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. And Representative Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be real quick. While I have you here and we're on record, I just want to make sure we're clear. Representative Boland and I came and met with you on the side-by-side usage. Are we still on the same page on utilizing the property?
Thank you, Representative Smith. I'll just say the conversations are open on all of those uses. We would just want to ensure compatibility with the conservation value of the property, the hunting uses, and other uses of the property, and that's where we are.
Okay, so we still have a commitment that this is open for us to use in our areas, in our districts, usage for sports vehicles, off-road vehicles, side-by-sides, the trail system that we have in Eastern Kentucky. I guess, Commissioners, where I'm headed, is that still on the, that's still available for us to do the program?
Yeah, that's still on the table, and obviously for us, our main concern is going to be hunting and fishing access, and then the TNC will be the ultimate decision maker for how that works.
Yeah, and I understood that. I just want to make sure nothing's changed.
Yeah.
All these changing things that's happened over the years that's been brought to my attention, I want to make sure we're still on the same page. I understand the hunting aspect too. We wouldn't want hunters out there at the same time, any accidents, but I want to make sure we were still clear on what we discussed.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's a critical point because we have a lot of elderly family members and people with disabilities who still like to hunt, and having the ability of accessing the property through a side-by-side so they can still enjoy the same experience as we are is obviously, not only is it part of federal policy with the ADA, but it's in part of our policy as Kentuckians. We want to make sure that everybody gets the same access to it. All right, so I see no other questions here. We certainly welcome your presentation, look forward to having this thing concluded, and I'd like to thank each of you for coming in front of our committee. At this time, we will go ahead as everybody takes their seat and ask Bob Bauer to come up and sit down. And Bob, just take your seat. Just even though I've called your name, I just introduced yourself for our records, and we'll turn it over to you.
Okay, sorry. I'd like to thank Chairman Smith and Chairman Gooch and the committee. Just wanted to give you a brief update on the forest products industry. Before I do that, I would like to mention that we have some members of our Young Leaders class here with me that are here in the back. We've started that program. If you could stand up.
Yeah, please go ahead and stand up. Welcome to our committee.
We appreciate them coming. They're from different aspects of the industry. Actually, if you take a portion of those, probably 80% of all the barrels that are here in the Commonwealth are coming from those companies. So that's a pretty big thing. And I'll talk a little bit about the white oak deal and what we're doing with it at the national level. But the Forest Industries Association, we represent a wide range of the industry: sawmill, logging, secondary industry, also forestry, landowners, just the whole gamut. So as you have some information in your packet, and as you can see, the industry's employs over 27,000 and a $13 billion impact a year. So it's a large industry that is throughout the Commonwealth. So, you know, they do a lot of different things out there, and so we try to represent them and work with them. One thing I'll mention is the Master Logger program that was actually done here 24 years ago is a very big success story. The Division of Forestry, the UK Forestry Department, and KFA are in that legislation as partners, so we work together, make adjustments. You all have made some adjustments with that legislation, but it works very well. You know, all of our loggers are trained now. They have to have a master logger on site. They're inspected by Division of Forestry to follow best management practices and water quality, and that's worked very well. Less than 1% of people have had any kind of issue as far as fines or bad actor type things. So we that's worked extremely well. We also, with our new partnership with all the white oak going on, Independent Stave is actually the last 2.5 years, anybody that's went through our loggers with that state program has covered their costs. So that's helped to get more loggers into the field and do things to help our industry. A couple of other things that we're involved with. One of the biggest issues that the industry faces is labor, as you've probably heard that from a lot of industries. So we have started a partnership that will start this next year with Alabama and another few states called Forestry Works. They've seen a lot of success there, so we're partnering with the Alabama Forestry Association, the University of Kentucky Division of Forestry, and have received some funding to help reach out to some of the younger and even high school kids to talk about forestry issues. We're going to be putting together a video of the different jobs, all those type of things. So we're really excited. They're at a point in Alabama where they're actually can record people from that program that are going into the industry. So we think that'll be a really good partnership, and we'll see additional funding in other states doing that. So we're really trying to address that labor issue, through these programs. There's also an American Hardwood Promotion Program. You may or may not have heard of that, but it's getting ready to. You'll start seeing it through Chip and Joanna Gaines on those networks. A lot of funding has come from associations, members, probably over $50,000 raised from our members here in Kentucky into this program, and it's a long-range program to show the benefits of real American hardwood, which is what the majority of our members produce. So, we're really excited about that. A lot of these floors that look like hardwood but aren't, we think they need to be real hardwood and that they're of more value in the long run. So that's a nationwide thing, and we're excited to be doing that. You may hear more about that, and when you make that choice, be sure and buy that Kentucky hardwood if you have a chance to do that. The other thing in your packet, just to update you, is the White Oak Initiative. So we've talked about the bourbon. You see all the warehouses coming up. All those barrels are made from white oak. So, obviously there's more demand for that. That's been a good thing as far as our industries. You've seen some new stave mills, new barrel plant in Moorhead, a lot of things going on. The bourbon industry has exploded. So as that started to happen, our association, University of Kentucky, we talked with some people at the national level. So this initiative is at a point where things are starting to happen on the ground. They've done a large conservation plan nationally for where these white oaks grow. So what they've basically found is that we have a good supply of white oak. From the inventories, the concern is we don't see as many of those smaller white oaks. So the concern is to make sure that when they're managing their forest, that these white oaks come up. It's not as easy as just going out there and cutting a tree and let it come up and the acorns are there. With white oak, you have to have trees of a certain size in there, or the maples, the trees that can grow in shade, will outgrow that. So we're looking at education for landowners. We've already started to do programs for loggers to make sure that when you're doing that harvesting, you allow room or ensure that white oak will be in that mix. And that's true with all the oaks, really. So it's at a point, their national meeting is next week in D.C. There's going to be some hill visits. So they're looking at making sure that these cost share programs and things include the ability to help landowners manage that. And it's a positive thing in that the price being paid for those white oak logs are probably triple what they were 4 or 5 years ago. So that makes it more important to landowners, more important to industry, and puts more money into the economy. So obviously that's an exciting thing. But you'll be hearing more about that, and there are a lot of things going on at the national level to ensure that we have that white oak for the future. As far as other concerns, I will mention the partnerships. We've talked here about that, and it's great to hear that part of that land, there'll still be active management on there. We just had our large outdoor equipment show. The Kentucky Wood Expo had 3,000 people there. They sold a lot of equipment, but we had a lot of kids there. But Fish and Wildlife was there exhibiting, talking about that. They just spoke at our annual meeting this past year about all the number of areas where obviously timber management is going on to help the wildlife. That also provides products for the local economy. So, we have a great partnership with that, and we're happy about that. And I've mentioned University of Kentucky Division of Forestry, all these other things. So we feel lucky that our industry has a lot of partners here, and we have worked well together in the past and the future. As far as the future, what's concerns, of course, I've mentioned the labor issue. We're trying to address that. And, markets aren't the best, so that's always a concern. But one thing that there is some worry about, especially in the eastern part of the state, is there's been a loss down in North Carolina, Tennessee, some large paper mills that have went out of business. So the market for some of that lower grade wood is sort of slowing down. So, you have to have that market to get rid of your low grade to make the good trees grow. So, we are looking at that. I know there's an economic development project or two that we're hoping may help that if they come to fruition. So we are looking at that. As far as other things, we're just trying to keep these guys in business and running and feel good about what's happening in the forest and the management and partnerships that are going on. The only other issue that we're looking at is we do have a little issue. We've just realized that our stormwater renewals on our mills, the cost may triple, but I'm in the process of trying to work through that and make sure that's not an issue for the industry. If it is, you'll probably see me back here during the legislative session. But I think we've worked with Division of Water for 30 years since stormwater's come in. Actually, in the last 3 years, have put 10 people in their stormwater program because I'm the guy they call to help them get under compliance. So that's worked very well, and we just hope that partnership continues. So with that, I appreciate again the committee taking time to listen to what we're doing, and we're there to help do all these things, keep our forest growing, and work as partners. And always appreciate everything this committee's done. I congratulate. Years ago, when that Forest Conservation Act passed, a lot of people were skeptical, and it's worked very well and not been a heavy hand. And it's all of our loggers are trained now, and it's been a good thing for our industry. That's helped everybody involved to see our forest continue growing and sustain for the future. Because that wood, it always grows back if you manage it right. So, with that, I thank you all very much.
Very good. Thank you for your update. Do we have any questions for our members? I do not see any, so thank you for your presentation. We do have a couple of housekeeping things to go over. If you look at your paperwork for today's meeting, you'll see that we have the low light heap assistant program block grant status report has been out. There's no action required by us. We just need to let you know that's there and put it on our report. And then you'll see 3 proposed KARs in front of you. No action needs to be taken on these, but again, you need to be aware of those. If there's no questions about any of these, then I need a motion to adjourn. All those in favor, sign of aye. Oh, wait, hold. Representative Bland. Absolutely, thank you.
They're not here, but I don't know if y'all know this or not, but I have a constituent up in Hyman by the name of Steve Bell, a pastor there in Hyman. Steve was on Wheel of Fortune last night, and he won. He went to the bonus round, and he won $40,000 in the bonus round. So he won $61,000 on the Wheel of Fortune last night. An old boy from Eastern Kentucky. So awful proud of him. Just wanted to make mention of that.
That's a good note to close on. So we have a motion, a second. All those in favor, sign of aye. Aye.